Healing words of the human soul. You are a soul. More specifically, you are soul. You're not an isolated identifying in language, not a self-image, not an ego, not a personality, not a person or an estate in law or accounting. You are an eternal soul. You, as a soul, are simply more fundamental than any of the linguistic identities or images that you may have mistakenly identified not as mine, but as me. Those come and go in time, while a soul, relative to those temporary things, is lasting or unchanging or eternal. By eternal, I do not mean that you, as a soul, are immortal. You, as a soul, are not immortal. Only soul is immortal. An isolated soul is only eternal. Soul itself is immortal. So, do I have a soul, or am I a soul? If I can identify a thing, then how can that thing be me? I am the one recognizing my self-awareness as distinct from patterns in language such as some name or some reputation or some description of language of how I am or how this body is and so on. I am not a set of personality traits that can be described in language. Personality traits can develop or fade or mature or disappear. I'm not the personality traits that I have. I have them. They are not me. I am a soul. I, as a soul, have personality traits, bodily form, physiological functionality, and so on. Before I arises in language, soul is all that is. Even when language arises, soul is still all that is. The soul is earlier than any of those things that can arise in language. The soul is the source of language. People can change their names, learn new languages, and even lose neurological functions of language or memory. Yet the soul is still present. Now, language may refer to a body as having a disease, such as scurvy. All of that is a construction in language. Scurvy is a label for various physiological developments. The use of the term scurvy does not imply that at a particular moment in time a scurvy appeared in a certain portion of a certain body and then later disappeared or exited. That is the linguistic model of possession, such as by a demon. There is another model. There is no healing of scurvy because there is no scurvy, except as a label in language. When there is a certain amount of vitamin C, as well as various other things in a body, then life, or soul, does not produce the various physiological functionality that can be labeled scurvy. When there is a lesser amount of vitamin C in a living body, then the physiological functioning arises that can be labeled scurvy. When there is not a living body, it doesn't matter if there's vitamin C or not. You don't say that a corpse has scurvy because there's no such thing as scurvy. It's just a label in language. Scurvy cannot be cured. Scurvy is just a label in language. Scurvy is not a demon possessing a living body. Scurvy is a six-letter word that sounds like this: scurvy. But what about other incurable diseases or incurable illnesses? There are such things as physical parasites, but scurvy and cancer and diabetes are just diagnostic labels in language. Parasites can be killed or driven out, at least in some cases. But what about a diagnostic label in language? Can it be killed? Incurable diagnostic labels in language cannot be killed or driven out or exorcised like a demon, to the extent that there's such a thing as a demon. A soul cannot have cancer or diabetes or scurvy. However, a soul can have a body that has various minimum vitamins and minerals and various physiological functionalities that can be labeled incurable scurvy or incurable demon possession, and so on. The linguistic model based on the theory of demon possession is the same model that is used when saying that body has scurvy, or that body has cancer, or that body has diabetes, or that body has numbness or blindness or baldness. Can you show me where is the baldness that the body allegedly has? Baldness is an absence of something. It's not the having of a something. And more specifically, baldness is a linguistic label for the absence of something. So how about diabetes? Diabetes is a diagnostic label for a particular level of sugar in the urine and blood. The word diabetes is derived from the Greek words for sweet urine. A body is not possessed by sweet urine or diabetes. A body is not plagued by sweet urine or diabetes. A body can produce urine, and that urine can be notably sweet. All that sweetness in the urine is because of an excess of sweetness in the rest of the body, because of sweetness in diet, and that excess in the rest of the body is being eliminated through the urine. That's why the urine is so sweet, because the body is so sweet. Certain levels of sweetness, as in carbohydrates, can be detrimental to physiological functionality, like the functions of circulation or vision or glandular function or nerve function. Diabetes does not cause those symptoms. Diabetes is the diagnostic label in language for those symptoms, with sweetness in the bodily fluids, such as urine and blood, being the first signal or symptom of too much carbohydrate in the diet. Too much carbohydrate in the diet can produce sweetness in the blood and urine, as well as a variety of other noticeable effects, such as what is called blindness or numbness. However, even blindness or numbness are just labels in language. Remove the carbohydrates from the diet, and then the impairments, or the process of the body giving attention to getting out the toxic amounts of carbohydrate, instead of that kind of impairment, or the body redirecting its energy towards removing the toxic amounts of carbohydrate, then those impairments to nerve function, such as the sensation of touch or visual functioning, may decline. In other words, take the carbohydrates out of the diet, and the impairments to the sensation or touch caused by carbohydrate excess disappears. Take away carbohydrates from the diet, or reduce them at least, and impairments to visual functioning may decline. Insulin is a hormone for helping the body to deal with carbohydrates. If the pancreas gland that produces insulin is overwhelmed or whatever, you have a whole set of issues, right? But just be clear, there's no such thing as having diabetes, except in language. There's no such thing as being possessed by a demon, except in language. And diabetes and other incurable illnesses are just demons created in language by the people who make up these diagnostic terms and use them. So a body does not have numbness or blindness or baldness or scurvy even. A body may or may not have the capacity for sight and touch and growth of hair. In the absence of the capacity for sight, we could say you have numbness or have blindness, but there's no blindness to have. There's just sight to have or not. A chair is not numb or blind or bald. A chair just does not have the capacity for sight or touch or the growing of hair. A chair cannot have scurvy or diabetes or cancer or any incurable illness. Neither can a soul. You are soul. A soul cannot be healed. Only what is broken can heal, such as a scratch on skin. However, a soul can recognize its wholeness and perfection and invulnerability to language. The soul can also recognize patterns of cause and effect in regard to nourishment as it relates to a body. Provide vitamin C, and certain physiological functions go well, and don't provide vitamin C, and they cease. Provide a certain amount of carbohydrates in the diet, and the body reacts to that poisoning with a whole sequence of withdrawals from sugar high, and the stimulation of the body kind of racing to deal with the toxicity of the sugar, and at least excess of sugar. And there's all the effects of that diet, but of a diet high in sugar, high in carbohydrates. But nothing incurable about it. The soul is always the soul. That's because it's eternal. What can a soul be but soul? Eternally, soul is soul. You are soul. Language can come and go. You are soul.